talked about the deadlines that you would need to hit in terms of the calendar and getting it published out in the newsletter. But before you even worry about hitting those deadlines, you have to do some planning on the event itself. And particularly for first-time autocrats, I think the easiest way to think of planning whatever the event is to make some correlation to something else you've already done. So if you've planned a wedding, if you've planned a retirement dinner, a big surprise birthday party, that sort of thing, it's sort of the same thing. It's sort of the same planning that's going to go into that, into a medieval style event that you would do in a mundane event. So first of all, you and the folks in your group have to figure out what kind of event you're having. Is it going to be a tournament? Are you having a feast? Is it an A&S event, a competition? Is it some combination of that? Because just in general, the type of event that you're having is going to drive a lot of the decisions you make in terms of the location that you hold the event, when you have the event, how long the event goes, how you schedule the event. Just knowing the type of event is going to drive basically all the decisions that you make. So what do we want to say for the purposes of discussion? Tourney and feast?
Sure, let's go with the tourney.
Tourney? Okay, so for a tourney, you could be having just a single day event. You could be combining it as a camping event and have an overnight campground. But you'll need to have some familiarity with your local area to figure out where to go, where to have the event. What are the campsites that are available? What are the campsites that are going to be fighting friendly? For those of us here in the far west, if we have events off base, we do have to be aware of how that presents in the local community, because we know we're fighting with safe weapons, but there's a cultural difference, there's a cultural barrier. So you do want to make sure that if you're selecting a non-American area, that you're aware of that sort of thing as well. So things to think about when finding a location for your event. You need water, or some kind of access to water, or you're going to have to haul that in for the fighters. Trash, because you'll be creating some, and that either needs to be disposed of on site, or you'll have to, as the autocrat, you'll be the one hauling trash away at the end of the event. Electricity, if it's needed. For some events, you're not going to need it. But if you're having an overnight camp trip, you might want to have running water. And you might want to have some place to, like a bathroom with lights at night. So electricity may come into play. We're having tourney only, right? No feast. If we were going to have a feast, we'd want a place that had tables and chairs and benches and things to sit on and things to eat at. Unless you were hauling all of that stuff in. So for example, if you were going to select kind of a remote campsite for your tournament and you were going to have a feast with that, you could rent tents and you could rent tables and chairs and do the setup there. Or you could make everybody sit on the ground if you didn't want to bring all of that stuff in. But things like renting tables and chairs and tents will factor into the site fee and that cost when you start to budget things out. I think I touched on this, bathrooms. Bathrooms, very, very important. Everybody's going to need those at some point during the day.
Porta potties at a minimum.
Yeah.
If you're really in a primitive camping area, you at least want to have porta potties. So make sure that you plan for that, because if you decide, okay, well, we're going to go out to this primitive area and there's no facilities available, but it's just for an afternoon tournament and that's it. Well, yeah, you're still going to need porta potties, even just to go out there for an hour or two.
Yes, and I can say as a lady with a long gown, porta potties not so awesome. So really, any kind of actual meant to be a bathroom is better than trying to hike up and not drag into anything a floor-length gown. But yes, bathrooms you will need at some point. And for those of us here in the far west where weather can be special and changeable covered shelter of some sort, at least in the general vicinity, because the weather may start off fair but can very rapidly, start raining when you're in the middle of rainy season. So that's sort of it for the site location itself. Again, once you've determined the type of event that you're going to have, then you need to start thinking about event staff. So if we're having a tournament, we're going to need a marshal, we're going to need a herald, and we'll need a chirurgeon. Hopefully not need one, but we need to have one there, just in case. If we were going to have a feast, we want a feastocrat. You can autocrat and feastocrat at the same time, but I personally don't recommend it. That's a whole lot of stress on one person, and I think that it's better to, if you can, to split those duties, to share those duties out with someone else. I definitely recommend having a feast crew dedicated for at bare minimum helping with setup and tear down. Depending on the type of feast that you have, you might expect that the feast crew would they would be servers for the tables, or maybe just for the head table. It depends on how you're setting that up. If you're having an A&S event, some sort of A&S competition, you would want your Minister of the Arts and Sciences there, and the judges that person has selected to actually judge the competition. For any of the events that you have that involve a site fee, you want somebody in charge of troll, and that somebody should not be you. It should be somebody else. My preference is for the exchequer to run troll. I think some people also have the constable.
Yeah, if there's a constable, that's kind of the constable's primary duty, really. If you do have a constable, a lot of local events, there's just not going to be a constable there because typically that's kind of a kingdom level thing, but or maybe baronial, depending on how your barony's set up. Of course, we run things a little differently here in the far west, and we tend to rely more on our local people rather than relying heavily on baronial officers. But yeah, definitely you'll want to have somebody to run troll that's dedicated to just running troll and not having to go around and answer all these other questions and deal with all these other distractions at the same time, because then troll gets to be a mess and chaos, and that's the last thing you want at troll. You want it to be very organized and running smoothly.